What's up, VC? This is Brad from H2Vinyl. I've been putting this video off for a couple of weeks now. I was planning on starting off with this video as I came back to the VC. It'd been kind of MIA or AWOL, whichever way you want to look at it for the month of August. I'm not going to apologize for it. This is free content. But I do, I just want to give everyone a life update, and for some reason this is harder than making a 40-minute contest entry. August was kind of a tough month for me. Everyone in my family is fine. Both Bato and Vidal are doing great. My vehicle has, for about a year and a half, has been having this ongoing issue of vibration, and it's just been steadily getting worse and worse. And so on August 7th, I have two really close friends that really respect the mechanic that they go to, and they highly recommend this mechanic, who I'm now calling my mechanic. He's a really great guy, just devout at his work and devout at being honorable. Their shop's name is Marinelli Auto, and they're on, if you're in the Central Florida area, highly recommend them. Anyway, so I had an appointment with them on August 7th to take my vehicle in to have this vibration looked at. And I was going into work early. I think I left home around 6:30 or so. I was getting in at 7, and it was then planning to take my car in, and for that about hour that I'm just kind of, sitting at the dealer, or sitting at the mechanics, and then having a friend pick me up, and they were going to go to breakfast. I figured that was going to be an hour, and so I'd go in an hour early to then make up kind of for the time that I was away. And one of our main streets is 50 or Colonial, and on Colonial, somewhere close to work, I was probably a mile and a half away from work. I think it was around Bennett. So some of you who watch my channel know where that is. I'm thinking of Tim. You know where Bennett and Colonial, where that Best Buy is. And somewhere around there, my vehicle starts sputtering and lurching. And there's a few, it's rush hour traffic. It's Orlando. A lot of people I know understand the concept of rush hour traffic. And so I'm sitting at this light, and I remember my vehicle going from dying to lunging forward to the point where my brakes almost weren't controlling it. And I'm telling the traffic lights, not the traffic lights, I'm telling the traffic, ignore the red light, go through the red light, go through. My number one thought is to get this vehicle another mile and a half, just to shut it down and have it towed. And so finally I made it into the parking lot, and as I did, I noticed that the temperature gauge was pegged, and that's where my vehicle sat. I got out of the vehicle. I saw not a lot, but white plumes of smoke coming from the wheel well on the driver's side. Immediately told me that my car was definitely overheating. The temperature gauge was the main thing that did that, but I knew that I could smell coolant and that kind of stuff. So there's something, I feel like I lost my coolant somewhere, on Colonial, and my vehicle was like literally fighting me to just die. And so I talked with Marinelli, told them, hey, plans have changed, I'm gonna have to tow it in. Told my friend, hey, my friend Cody, he's just amazing guy. Hey, I need to tow it in. Don't pick me up at Marinelli's. So we're changing plans. And then my friend Cody was like, I've got AAA, and so he was able to tow my vehicle to Marinelli's. I didn't have to be there, and so mechanics looking at it during the day. My friend and I, we grabbed breakfast, and later on that day, as I go into the shop, Marinelli sits me down and says, "Hey, it doesn't look good for your vehicle." And like, for me, my vehicle is more than a place from A to B. I mean, it's not like it's a person or anything. Well, it kind of is, but it's the main way that I listen to music, and it's kind of this, you know, rock in my life. I don't know how to explain it, but yeah. And so he sat me down and he's like, "Hey, your internal water pump is leaking fluid, and there were signs." The internal water pump is basically a sheet of aluminum that's bolted by 8 bolts to the front of the engine, which is on the passenger side. So the front of the engine is on the passenger side, and there are 2 gaskets that stop it from leaking. And well, one gives, the inner one gives out. It'll start bleeding coolant, and he said there were definite signs that it was leaking coolant. I have a Ford Edge 2009, and so anyway, this water pump is leaking. It cost, you know, a couple $1,000 to replace, to fix, because you have to drop the transmission, you have to take out the engine to get to it. And so I'm like, oh geez. He's like, well, hold on. Well, I'm not done yet. I'm like, okay. And he's doing his best to almost have kind of a bedside manner. And he was like, I took a look in your oil pan, because that's where the coolant goes. And your oil has the consistency of chocolate milk, and oil and coolant don't get along. Coolant going through your engine like that is essentially adds wear to the pistons. And he said that there is a good amount of metal shavings within the bottom of the oil pan. And he gave my engine a couple of weeks. So that was that was the big clincher for me. So a lot of August was me working full-time, but yet at the same time every evening looking to find another vehicle. And then I don't know what it is with weather. Weather is very strange this year. Some can attest in Florida that we've been getting rainy season later and later. Usually, from what I gather, raining season ends in June, and I think our greatest rainy season was in August this year. And I mean, there are times where I'm driving all the way up to Sanford to look at vehicles, and I get stuck in the rain, downpour, torrential downpour, and I've wasted money, I've wasted time, and by the time I have to stop, and by the time I get there, the dealership is either flooded or closed, and so a lot of disheartening things were happening in the month of August. So that was a reason that I wasn't watching videos, just kind of out of my mind looking for another vehicle. And then also along the same line, my friend Cody, because I'm also trying to, oddly enough, fight for my vehicle. I wanted to run this vehicle into the ground, and I have. But like, my hope was that 4 years from now, 5 years from now is when I would have ran it into the ground. So I'm a little off base with savings and everything like that. Definitely will have a better plan for the future. But you know, going forward. But my friend Cody was like, you know, I know a mechanic. Cody's just that kind of guy. He's like, I know a guy who could probably fix this for a lot less than you're kind of expecting. I was expecting maybe $6 or $7 grand, and my vehicle isn't worth that. And so I contacted this mechanic. He's come down to look at my vehicle, and my vehicle's still sitting in the street. It's October 7th will be 2 months now, and he hasn't touched my vehicle. Granted, I haven't done the greatest job of trying to spur him on forward, but he's working on this on his own time, not in a shop, and so there's some risk involved. But at the same time, I'm looking at like putting in a new a lightly used engine, and looks like we might be able to get that done and then some other things like replace the internal water pump, and then motor mounts, which I also think were a good portion of the vibration as well. Instead of, you know, 5, 6, 7,000, we you know, we might be looking for, you know, 3,500 or something like that. So I think it's still worth it, but it's getting to the point where for the entire month of August, I had a rental car, several rental cars, and then for the month of September, I was borrowing my parents' car. Thank you, Mom and Dad. And now Mom's back in Florida, and she says she's fine without a vehicle. That's just the way she is, and yeah, I don't want her to live in Orlando without a vehicle. So so I'm going back to renting a car, and I'm tired of some of the crazy things that have been happening in my life this year, between my cats, my AC going out, now my car. 2 weeks after my car took a dive, had another leaky pipe in the house. That wasn't a big deal. Was able to fix that for, you know, $2 grand, but a lot of things are coming up, and I'm seeing that, oh my gosh, I really have to change my lifestyle a lot to save for these big, like, that was the second time a pipe broke in my house, and so it's really time to repipe my house. So next year I'll be repiping my house. Anyway, that's where I've been. I'm a little lost for words, and I'm doing this unrehearsed just because I don't. Yeah, I'm just kind of blabbing in front of the camera, but that's why I wasn't around much in August, and for some reason this video is really hard to just kind of say it. It's been rough, and I've been having a great time coming back. I love interacting with everyone in the VC, and geez, and Andrew, I'm honored. Thank you for having your contest, and I'm almost in tears. I've never won anything like that, and so it's really cool. Thank you, and I'll definitely do an unboxing. I've sent you my email address. Short PSA. I've been looking at Edge vehicle as I'm looking at other Fords, and because I really would like to buy Toyota, and Toyota's up there. Even used cars, like I'd love to have a 4Runner, and they're up there. So I was looking at Fords and seeing that Tauruses have the exact same problem. These V6 engines just were, yeah, and it's not just from like 2007 to 2010. It's a greater span of things. Ford has used these engines, this internal water pump, and so I guess my PSA is, if you own a Ford in the late 2000s, early 2010s. Really look to see if you have an internal water pump that could easily just start leaking into your oil pan. And the best thing to do is to do two things, and that's to check the level of your coolant quite often, just to make sure it's not leaking. It is a closed system, so it shouldn't be leaking. And if it is, if you do see that coolant level going down, and I would say you should check to see if your oil looks like the consistency of chocolate milk. I did neither of those. I didn't know I needed to do that, so I'm giving myself grace. But I knew that there was something wrong with my vehicle, and I wished I would have taken action. I also wished the dealership that I went to would have told me there was something wrong with my vehicle before I had to possibly replace an engine. And so, yeah, so that's my short PSA. Yeah, thanks for hearing some of that. You know, I'm going on for almost 20 minutes now, and I seem to be rambling, but it's, like I said, August was a tough month for me. Maybe not as hard as when Bato got sick, but it has really disrupted my life, and I'm you know, waiting on this mechanic, and he's MIA and just not responding to me. So now I'm like considering getting another vehicle, and what that looks like. I'm taking vacation time next week. I want to, you know, I want to drive around Orlando and look at vinyl, but I really don't have the budget for that. And I had the joy of hanging out with DJ High Noon, Tim, who also lives in Orlando, and had the honor to, you know, meet up with him on Sunday for the Orlando record show, and was doing pretty good till the last vendor. I'll show you that video later. But let's get into this. I haven't had a chance to listen to all of this stuff many times, you know. I like to listen to at least the stuff I show several times. Some of the stuff I barely even know what it is. So here we go. The first one. I did buy this sometime, gosh, I want to say June. And this is Bass Nectar Reflective. There we go, Reflective. I think this is a copy of two of their EPs in one album, and it's on pink vinyl, and then I think it's blue as well. Yep, so pink and blue. They always do this kind of cool pastel color scheme. I've only listened to this once. It's okay. It's all right. I won't be doing needle drops on all of this stuff, but I don't know any information about this. But anyway, got this. Picked it up at Remix, which is a store in Orlando that really kind of specializes in electronic. They have a lot of electronic. They carry everything, but their main deal is electronics. Excuse me, I'm going to have some water. Next up is a group that I hope releases a brand new album soon, and this is drum and bass group Pendulum from Australia. This is kind of the reworks of some of their last stuff, and I've only listened to this once as well, and I've marked pretty much almost every one of the songs good. This was released June 29th of this year, and 2 LP set, and I'm not sure what, if you haven't heard Pendulum, I'm going to play something off of this. I'm not sure what yet, but Pendulum, the reworks, not as good as their originals, but still, it's something. They haven't released an album since 2010, and you know, almost 9 years later, and this is a good sign that they're actually thinking about doing something. So there you go. Here's something from Pendulum, The Reworks. So the third up is a group that I learned from Andy's Vinyl Den, and this is the Bottospend. This is album 3. They have interesting covers. Like, oh my gosh, I wouldn't tangle with that at all, not even to take its picture. Only have listened to this once, and I don't even know when this was released. I do know that it's the third album because it says 3 on the label. Great, kind of almost Afrobeat, jazz, really great stuff. Here is a song. I don't even know what I'm going to be playing. Like I said, I've only heard this once, but here is a needle drop from this. I'm really excited about this one. Rarely do I get a chance to mention Starflyer, but this is Starflyer's original album known as Starflyer or Silver. And this is a repressing of this, a reissue that was released in June of this year. I was able to order it from velvetbluemusic.com. And Christian alternative band. Last I've shown this was in Andrew's contest video, but like I said, rarely get to show this. So this Christian alternative rock or shoegaze, and this is their, it's either 93 or 94 album. This was just before their gold album. I do not have, before this, I've never had a copy of this. And originals go for an extraordinary amount. This repress is probably going for a good amount right now too, because it was limited to 500 copies. So way to go Starflyer. Why don't you make your music more available? But I'm glad to have it. Silver is a really great album. Didn't like it at first, much like Gold. I didn't care for it when I first heard it. But it's interesting that I've heard so many of these songs without actually owning this album, and I'm like, oh, I didn't know that was on that album. I'm really liking this now. So anyway, I will pick, oh geez, what will I pick? Let's just do the first track. Let's do Blue Collar Love off of this. So here is Starflyer 59's first album, Silver. So the fifth album I bought sometime in July. I'm kind of all over the map with these. And this is an album that I learned from Andrew, and that is Iggy and the Stooges, Raw Power. This is on his top 100, I think even top 10. 1973. This is a reissue, part possibly 1980 remastered copy, and I've only listened to this a few times. Well, I've listened to it on Spotify as well. I'm really liking Iggy, with his work with Queens of the Stone Age, those kind of things. Really have gotten into him through that, and exploring earlier works on Spotify. Iggy and the Stooges, really, really awesome. This is a fairly well-known album, so I'm probably not going to do any needle drops on this. But Iggy and the Stooges, Raw Power. Andrew, I'm picking some stuff up, man. Picking some stuff up. Another one that I was actually surprised to find this in the wild. Learned about this song. Learned about this album from a turntablist documentary, and that turntablist documentary is the movie Scratch. Tim, DJ High Noon, and I were talking about that. Great, brilliant documentary on many DJs in the early '80s all the way up into the mid '90s on their different scratch techniques and kind of where they gleaned all of the ideas from and whatnot. But in that documentary, Mixmaster Mike, who's the DJ for the Beastie Boys, does a mashup of hip hop and Robert Johnson, and I found this, I think, for only like $7 or $8, and at Park Ave, and this is Robert Johnson's The Delta Blues, and king of the Delta Blues singer, and I picked it up just for the sample of what was in that movie. And so here is that sample of what Mixmaster Mike did, and it's pretty cool. Here it is.
I grew up listening to a lot of jazz and funk, and I wanted to be a part of that movement in another way instead of just being a listener. That's Robert Johnson, the Delta Blues.
So my thoughts of this after hearing it, because like I said, I did just get it for that sample, but this was released in 1961. This is the 1980s reissue, which was part of the Thesaurus of Classical Jazz series. I could probably listen to this in spurts, maybe a song or two. I noticed, and this kind of bugged me, and I noticed that he starts the song, every song, with the word I. Which, like I said, bugged me, but if I were to listen to this maybe one or two songs at a time, and their songs are pretty short, I think 2 to 3 minutes on average, sometimes it's 4 minutes. I've listened to this once. Rambling on My Mind is obvious, the one that I love the most on this. Yeah, I'm really glad I own it. It's an interesting piece of history, especially since Robert Johnson started a lot of the. I mean, the crazy thing is, and Andrew's talked about this, that here's a man who sold his soul to the devil, allegedly, to become famous, and he didn't really get there until after his death. And monumental in blues, and I definitely want to be able to spin this and be able to listen to the whole thing, but I'm getting to the point where I think I can start appreciating it. So it's not just a sample anymore, though Mixmaster Mike is the man when it comes to sampling and whatnot. Here is another album that I learned about through Vinyl Me Please. Vinyl Me Please is a subscription service I'm no longer a member of, but at the time I was getting emails from them, and this was, I think, was this 2017? Yeah, this was released in 2017, and they gave their top 10 albums that you should pick up and listen to, and so I listened to this a few times, and this is Dent May. This is Across the Multiverse, his 2017 album. I picked this up when? June 22nd of this year. I was planning on getting this through Vinyl Me Please and just never picked it up. I enjoy this album. It's kind of indie, but it's indie rock, but I like calling it's also synth pop, but I like to call it how EDM, like electronic dance music, has an IDM version, which is intelligent dance music. I want to call this intelligent indie rock. I kind of like that. And there's almost an IT computerist tone about him. Like the first song is "Hello Cruel World." The first words that were typed on the internet were "Hello World." And so "Hello Cruel World," and then picture on a screen talking about the images on a either television screen or a computer monitor or something. And one of the songs even starts out with a computer modem sound. And so it's quite interesting. Gosh, I'm going to either play "Hello Cruel World." Can you notice that I haven't done the recording of the needle drops yet? I'll either do "Hello Cruel World" or "Picture on a Screen." Like it's kind of a dreamy sound, synth pop, indie rock, but I like to call it intelligent indie rock. And here is a sample of Dent May. So long, my love, I've got to do this on my own. Submit myself to the unknown. I'm just a brick without a home, screaming, hello, cruel world. I really wanna live a long time, but if I don't, I wanna thank you. All right, so the last three are going to go pretty quick. I'm not going to do any needle drops on them. This Jimmy M would love, and this is Dead Mouse's Animal Rights, released in 2010 off of his 4x4 equals 12 album. It's just single-sided. Got this at Remix in July 28th. So there's that. The next one I've shown, and this was for Ron's Space Race, and this was also at purchased at Remix, and this is Escape Velocity by the Chemical Brothers, off of their 2010 album as well. A lot of 2010 albums, and their 2010 album was Further. This song in Swoon, Swoon's probably my favorite, but this really good song, Escape Velocity by the Chemical Brothers. And then this one I've shown another copy of, because apparently I decided to collect, I'm trying to collect all of the singles, every single one, every different pressing. of the Chemical Brothers, and this is the European version of Galvanize by the Chemical Brothers, which is off of their 2004 album Push the Button. Galvanize is probably one of my favorite songs off of that album. Anyway, I played the US pressing of this back last year sometime, so I'm not going to do another needle drop on this, but this is another good pickup. I picked this up at Remix as well. So, well, everyone, thanks. Thanks for listening to this. Thanks for hearing some of my story, at least for August. It's been a rough month for me, but I'm trying to move forward. The last 2 weeks have kind of been a means of escape from some of the stuff that I've been going through, and just been able to put aside those put aside those things that I'm kind of stressing out about and make some videos. And guess what? That stuff really hasn't gone away. So now I've got to start really making a decision to whether to buy another vehicle, get mine fixed, and continue to rent, or maybe even buying a cheap vehicle just to get me by, because yeah, I'm spending a fortune on rentals, and I don't want to put my parents out either. So anyway, thanks for hearing some of my story. Thank you for checking out the needle drops, or the pickups that I've done for June and July, namely. Don't have a lot in August. Kind of went out in freak mode in August, and September. I tried to stay away from the record store, but I didn't really do a great job of that. So I've got some stuff for September that I'll show later on, but definitely have. And I'm not even counting the stuff that I got at the Orlando Record Show. I consider that part of October, though it was September 30th when we did that. So, yeah, anyway, thanks all for watching. I would really hope that those who have a Ford vehicle in the vinyl community would really listen to this, and that maybe it saves someone some trouble. Yeah, I don't know if that'll do any good, but my hope is it will. And anyway, hope everyone's doing well. Listen to good music and being able to drive along in your car as normal, your own car. And yeah, thanks for hearing me. Thanks for going through this video. And Bato's hungry. That's what he's telling me. Hey, buddy, come here. You want to come here? He never comes to me. He always is like, why do I have to come to you? Why don't you just feed me? Isn't that right? I don't even know where he is now. That's crazy. Anyway, hope everyone's doing well, and take care, everyone.